Hey, what's up guys? Brad with Squared Away every day, and today we're going to be taking a look at a 6-month review on my Tesla Model Y Performance. I've currently put about 5,000 miles on this vehicle and I've driven it everywhere. I've driven it in the mountains, in the canyons, on city streets, highway, logging trail roads, in the snow, all kinds of different situations. And so I have a really good idea of what you guys can expect as a potential buyer or as a current owner, and my personal opinions on the vehicle to this point. So if you like this kind of stuff, please go ahead and give me a like, give me a sub, and let's hop into it. Alright, so let's start with the crazy features of this car, kind of the car's claim to fame, so to speak, and that is going to be the car's 0 to 60 time. Now, this is just a simple electric crossover SUV, but yet it boasts a 0 to 60 time that would be impressive even on some of the best sports cars, and that 0 to 60 time is 3.5 seconds. Pretty crazy. So let's start on the front end of the car and just talk about the styling and all that good stuff. Let's head up front. Okay, so starting at the front end of the car, we've got the headlights, and the headlights, personally speaking, are awesome. It reminds me of the old Porsche 996 headlights. They're very sleek, sporty looking, and very modern, so big fan of that. Not only that, the headlights are extremely functional. These particular headlights put out a wall of light like no other vehicle I've driven with stock headlights. Now, I come from the overland world on YouTube, traditionally in my early days on YouTube, and I've had to deal with a lot of different lighting stuff, off-road lighting stuff, and typically that's going to be far better than any sort of factory lighting, but I will say this is hands down the best factory headlights I've ever run across on any particular vehicle, even on aftermarket headlights for off-road vehicles and stuff like that. So that is a big win right there, and very, very functional and practical for just the end user. Then we move on to the front of the bumper here, and the bumper is a little bit odd. It's got this weird scoop shape to it, which just kind of reminds me of somebody sucking on a lemon. It really looks kind of odd. I don't know why they did this scoop shape. You would think that that would be less aerodynamic, I guess. I don't know why they did that, but I will say this. As a whole, the particular car here is very handsome. It's a handsome, elegant, sporty looking car, far better looking than the Model 3 Performance, in my opinion. And I think as I've owned the car, I like the look of it when I first got it, and I think I like it even more after owning it for 6 months. All right, moving down to one of my favorite parts of the car, aesthetically speaking, and that is gonna be these 21-inch Uber turbine wheels. Now, these come only on the performance version of the Tesla Model Y, and I think they look so good. They look sporty, they look aggressive, and it does give the car a more premium look over the 19 or the 21-inch wheels. So I'm digging that big time. Now, one downside to these wheels is when you first get the vehicle from the factory, the wheel sticks out quite a bit further from the tire, so the tire doesn't give it much protection, which can lend itself to being easily curbed, or even if you just hit a pothole or something that's not even that bad, you can slightly damage the wheel or curb it in a way that it's just gonna kind of scratch it and mar up the finish on there, which is not that nice. But go ahead and take a look at the video I've got right up here. I'll link to it. It talks about different tire sizes that you can get for your Model Y Performance so that you can actually get more protection for that actual wheel, so that the rubber comes out further and it's going to protect that wheel in the long run, just in case you hit a curb or you run into a pothole or something like that. Then we move on to the actual brakes, and I will say that the brakes have a slight bit more grab to them than just the traditional Model Y long range, which is nice, being that this is a performance variant of the vehicle. That's helpful. And in addition to that, we've got it powder coated. Actually, I'm not really sure what it is, but we've got it in a red color, and it just looks super, super nice. So when you pair the 21-inch Uber turbine wheels with the red brakes, it is a really great looking combo. And so if you're somebody that doesn't want to go and mess with getting wheels and powder coating brakes when you first get the vehicle, the Model Y Performance is a great way to go. Just one last quick note about the front end. We've got this intake right here, or this little grill, and sometimes in fall I've noticed that it'll suck in leaves and make a weird rattling noise. It sounds like it's coming from the car itself, when in actuality it's just leaves and debris sucking and moving around in there. So sometimes you'll have to clear those out when the roads are particularly ridden with leaves and all sorts of stuff blowing around. Now, if we talk about the ground clearance of the vehicle, the ground clearance is actually very acceptable. It is just a little bit taller than the Model 3, and it's just a little bit shorter than the standard acceptable ride height on an SUV, which is 8 inches. Now, in my experience, driving this in snow and off-road and in the mountains, I haven't really had too much of a problem to where I've bottomed out, and to this point, it's been very good. And of course, looking at the front end, we can't leave without talking about the Frunk. The Frunk is actually fairly functional. The only thing I've noticed it's been kind of a problem on the Frunk has been when you go to close it, this particular sheet of metal or whatever is really sensitive to getting dented with your palms or your hand or your knuckles. And so you need to be really careful when you're closing this that you're not applying too much particular pressure in one particular spot. So I always recommend pushing it down with 2 hands. Now inside, when we look at the actual interior here, this is pretty functional. It's got a decent amount of space, but again, it's not something I use because number one, this is something manual that you have to pull down yourself, and I'm always just kind of weary about denting the front lid here. All right, moving on to the rear of the vehicle, the taillights are very acceptable. I would say they look very Tesla-esque, and they look pretty nice actually from the outside. The lighting is really good. The light output at nighttime is more than adequate and is very bright. Taillights, same thing with the actual blinkers, the brake lights, everything is very, very bright, and I've been completely satisfied with that to this point. This particular vehicle is fitted with the factory tow hitch, which is really nice if you want to actually put a bike rack on the vehicle or tow a trailer, a small trailer at that, something along those lines. Now the tow hitch is actually hidden behind this little plate right here, and it's just a simple plastic piece that you can just pull off, hook up to your bike rack or your small little trailer, whatever you've got, and you can be on your way. Now, one feature of the car I didn't really think I was going to get all that much use out of or really care that it was there is the auto tailgate. And this is actually something that's far more functional than I thought it was going to be, and it's really nice when your hands are full and you just need to simply press a button to open up the trunk. Sitting in the back of the Model Y Performance, you can see that this is actually a generous amount of cargo space for you when you take those big trips to Costco or whatever. Now, I'm about 6 feet tall, 175 pounds, and you can see I have a good amount of space back here, but the limiting factor would be my head and my height. So due to the way that this car is shaped, it's swooping down, low drag coefficient, the trunk comes down quite aggressively so that yes, we have all this space down here, but the height of the goods that you put back here are going to have to be relatively short just because of the shape of the vehicle. All right, so before moving on to the tech of the vehicle, we're going to talk about probably the biggest reason you would even buy the performance variant of the Model Y, and that is going to be the performance. And so the 0 to 60 on this is 3.5 seconds, as previously mentioned, and it is really 3.5 seconds. It's actually really impressive. Even somebody who owns a Tesla Model S Plaid, this particular car still feels very quick, and it's just very fun to drive. Whether you need to overtake somebody on the highway, or you're sitting in a red light, you weren't in the right lane when you needed to be, and you need to overtake people to get into that right lane quickly, it just really makes driving really, really nice. Merging onto highways, all that good stuff, and the speed is actually very practical, and aside from that, it is fun. Now, when we talk about the torque stability of the vehicle, there is quite a bit of torque in the performance variant, and I have noticed when you push the pedal all the way down, sometimes the car will want to just slightly pull to the left or the right. It's really easy to correct. It's not a big deal, but I will say the torque stability is not quite as stable on the Model Y Performance as it is on my old Model 3 Performance and my Model S Plaid that I have now. And then in line with performance, we have to talk about the actual handling and the drivability of the car. So when we talk about just the general use, driving the car around on the highway or city streets or whatever, it is quite a pleasure to drive, and it's probably one of the most relaxing, low-stress vehicles that I've ever driven. It actually is. I will say that hands down. It is the most low-stress and easy-to-drive vehicle that I've ever owned. If we put it into the performance category, though, and we're charging up canyons in the mountains, or we're just really driving the car, more of a performance attitude on that particular day, whatever you want to call it. The handling is okay. It's not going to be anything close to like, you know, a 911 Turbo or something crazy like that. The handling is adequate. It's slightly less good than the Model 3 is going to be, and that's because we have the ground clearance being slightly higher on this vehicle. The overall frame of the vehicle is bigger, and so there's going to be a little bit more body roll and stuff like that, but as a whole, for what the vehicle is, it handles really, really nicely. Like I said, going through canyons and driving a little aggressive, it's going to be just fine for you. And then more importantly, just driving day to day, it is extremely relaxing and comfortable to drive. And last thing before we move on, the handling and the drivability of it, we're going to talk about the traction control. And the traction control in, honestly, all the Teslas, not just this Y, but the traction control system is second to none. It is extremely good. I know there's people out there that are going to argue that, you know, whatever company is better. In my experience, the traction control system on this is really among the best, if not the best traction control. And that's great for if you've got gravel on the roads, if you've got black ice, if you've got water on the roads and you're hydroplaning, or if you're just simply driving in winter conditions on snow. The traction is really, really good. Actually, I shouldn't say the traction, but the traction control system is really, really good. The traction is going to be dictated, obviously, by the balance of the vehicle, and then more importantly, the tires. All right, being that this is an electric vehicle, we do need to talk about range a little bit. Now, Tesla says that this particular Model Y Performance can get 303 miles of range, and I will tell you, in temperate conditions, the range is realistically going to be more like 250 to maybe 265 miles, depending on how you drive the car, if you're using the heated seats, if you're using the heat, if you're using the air conditioning. All of that can be contributing factors, but like I said, when it's temperate weather and you're not really needing to run the AC all too much, the heated seats all too much, anything like that, you can expect about 250 to 260 miles of range. And me personally, I charge this up to about 90%, so I'm never really getting that 250 or 265 miles of range anyway. All right, now one feature I think that is just really overlooked on the Teslas in general is the Tesla app on your phone. This can do a lot of different things. We'll talk about what it can do, but specifically, you see there's these cameras here, and there's cameras all over the car. There's a camera on the right B-pillar, the left B-pillar, the front right fender, the left fender, the front windshield, and also the rear of the car. And those cameras actually serve a multitude of functions. Number one, when the car is parked, the car will essentially enter into Sentry mode. In the Sentry mode, will record if somebody gets close to the vehicle, if your vehicle's bumped, it'll record that event and store it on the internal iPad or whatever you want to call it inside of the car, which is really, really nice. Same thing while you're driving. If you are driving and you get into an accident, these cameras are pretty much recording all the time if there is an event to record, and it'll store it on the vehicle so that when you need to talk to the insurance adjuster or whatever, you can provide that footage for those claim adjusters. Then we talk about the rear bumper or the rear camera. Obviously, that can be used for just when you're in reverse. It's going to show that as well. When you're in reverse, the front right and the front left fender cameras will also show you your side peripheral. And then when you apply your blinkers, the right blinker and the left blinker are each going to turn on, respectively, the turn signal cams for the vehicle. Okay, so aside from just accessing the cameras in the app, what else can you do? Well, you can do a ton of stuff. You can preheat the car, you can pre-cool the car, you can flash the lights, you can honk the horn, you can start the car remotely, you can open up the frunk, the trunk, all of that good stuff, stuff that you would think is pretty standard. Some stuff that's kind of not standard to the Tesla app is you can track real time where the car is at in the specific location of the car. You can track how fast the car is going real time and where it is on the road, which is really nice for if your kid's driving or something like that. You can actually program for the car to charge in off-peak hours if you have a cheaper charging rate, let's say from like midnight to 4 a.m. or something like that. You can have the car plugged in and you can program the car from your app to start charging in those off-peak hours. You can also take a look at your charge status and how much power you've actually put into the car on each charge and how much it's cost you to charge the car at home or at a supercharger, how much it's cost you to charge the car for any length of time. It'll show you that information as well. In addition to that, you can go ahead and buy new software for your vehicle from the app. You can buy accessories for your vehicle from the app. You can go ahead and schedule your service appointments, which is actually the only way that you can schedule a service appointment is from the app. And you can also call roadside assistance from the app in the case that your car breaks down or you have some sort of flat on the side of the road. And then of course, being this is a Tesla, it has a lot of tech in it. One of the coolest tech features you're going to have is autopilot, which is essentially just a fancy cruise control. Now, when you enter autopilot, the car will keep speed just like cruise control does, but then it will be adaptive in the sense that it brakes and accelerates based off of how many cars are in front of you or what the speed is of the particular vehicle. Not only that, the car will actually turn and go around mild corners and curves for you while you're on the road. What autopilot will not do for you is stop at a red light and make like a right-hand turn or a left-hand turn. It's not going to do that. You're going to have the full self-driving beta to be able to access that as of right now. Another cool thing that you can get on these Teslas, and actually it just comes on all of them, is the regen braking. And what essentially happens is when you let off of the brake, the car will start to slow itself down, and with the momentum of the car, it will charge your batteries while slowing the car down. So really a lot of people call it one pedal driving. And essentially, that's what it is. You can drive with just your foot on the accelerator, and when you let off, the car will slow down. And once it comes to a complete stop, it will enter hold mode, where the car will just, essentially, it's like a quick park feature to where when you're sitting at a red light, it's not going to roll rearwards or forwards if you're on a hill. It's just simply going to stay in like a quick access park feature, which is considered hold mode. Another feature of the car that is really handy that I don't think a lot of people talk about is the trip planner. Say you want to take a trip cross country and you've got a long drive ahead of you. All you need to do is program where you want to go. The car will tell you what stops you're going to need to make along the way at the various superchargers. It'll let you know how long you're going to be there for at that supercharger and what battery you're going to have when you leave the supercharger, and what battery, I should say percentage, what battery percentage you're going to have when you leave, and also when you get to the next supercharger, which makes your driving across country really stress-free in an electric vehicle. The video turn signals are a welcome improvement, which I've liked tremendously. You'll just see the video turn signal, whether you turn right or left, and that's been really handy for looking at those tricky blind spots. Another cool feature of the car is going to be dog mode or camp mode, where essentially you go ahead and preset the temperature that you want it to be in the car, and the car is just really going to stay at that. So if you've got a dog in the car and it's really hot out, you can make it so that the AC is going to stay on, and there's a little message that pops up on the screen that'll tell you, hey, my owner's going to be back. Please don't bash out the windows. The screen on the car is actually relatively big. I think it's 17 inches, which is really respectable, and it's just nice for when you need to charge your car or you're waiting for somebody. You can watch Netflix or Hulu or whatever. I will say the streaming function on the Model Y is slightly clunky, and that's whether you have the AMD chip, or I'm sorry, that's whether you have the Ryzen chip or the Intel chip. Both of them are fairly clunky, and how do I know? Because my Tesla Model S Plaid also has the Ryzen chip, and it is slightly clunky when you get into Netflix and different apps like that for streaming. Now, the streaming itself for audio is really, really good. The audio in this particular car is great. It's probably maybe better than my Tesla Model S Plaid. It's really good audio, and the streaming service that comes with your premium connectivity is great. All the different channels and genres of music that you can pull up are really, really good, and it just makes it awesome so you don't have to get into your Spotify account or anything. I know everybody does Spotify. I'm not a huge Spotify person. I don't know why. I just like to use the Tesla streaming service. And of course, the charge network that's associated with Tesla's, the supercharger network, is really functional. You can charge your car up pretty quick. Tesla says you can charge the Model Y 175 miles in 15 minutes. Realistically, it's probably more like 130 miles, maybe 140 miles in that 15 minutes. But I will say the charging, if you precondition the battery before you get to the charger, is actually very, very quick. And then, of course, we have weird things in the car, like the toy box, where you can get into boombox mode and play music outside of the car, to where you can get in and play video games and use the steering wheel for the actual race games inside of the car. All stuff that is very cool, stuff that I don't really use, but my kiddo certainly likes. Okay, so let's move on from the tech and just talk about the interior of the car, and we'll talk about the aesthetics first. It's very minimalist and plain in here. There's not really a lot going on. You've got your big entertainment screen, and that's also your speed gauge, and it does everything for you. You've got that. And then you've got your steering wheel, and that's pretty much it. It's very minimalist in here, and there's not much going on. Even the air vents come out of a hidden pocket, and you can adjust it with your fingers on the screen of where you want the air to actually go. The seats are actually relatively comfortable. The white interior, just for a quick note, actually supposed to have the more premium vegan leather, and that's what it is in here, is it's vegan leather seats, and the white is supposed to be a little bit more supple than the black is. I would have to agree. It's maybe 10% more supple and just slightly more comfortable than the black seats are. So just a quick tip on that. Now, the seating position inside of the car is actually very good. It gives you a great view of the road, and it does make you feel like you've got a little bit more control of the vehicle and road awareness compared to like the Model 3. The cabin is medium sized, and I would say it could hold 4 adults quite easily, and they would be comfortable sitting in the car. Much beyond that, 5 people, 3 in the rear, would be a little bit too many, and I would consider the cabin size of the vehicle to be more of a medium, slightly larger than a medium size, definitely bigger than the Model 3 in general. Then we have this Pano roof in here, which makes it feel very airy, and even though the vehicle's short, you're gaining about maybe 3-4 inches because the glass itself doesn't come down as far as a traditional headliner inside of a vehicle, which is really nice, and it gives it this nice open airy feel, particularly for riders in the back of the vehicle or in the second row back here. Again, the sound system is very good. I would say maybe better than my Model S Plaid. The QI chargers, or the fast wireless chargers inside of the car, are actually really good. I've had vehicles before where it would take you like an hour and a half to go from 0 battery on your phone to charged, and in this vehicle it takes maybe about 15 minutes from no battery at all, your phone is dead, to getting some sort of charge on it, which is really nice, and that's more than welcome. All of the seats in the vehicle can be heated, both the front passenger, the driver, and all 3 seats in the back, which again is just nice for your passengers. And it's kind of odd to have the middle seat as a heated option, but it is in the vehicle. And of course, finally, the steering wheel is heated in the car as well, which is super nice, especially living in Colorado. I've really appreciated that, more so than I thought, and the heated steering wheel does get actually pretty hot, but again, it's a nice welcome feature in the wintertime in Colorado. One of my favorite features of the car itself is going to be the maintenance. The maintenance on Teslas, if you haven't owned one yet, is relatively non-existent. As long as you've got good tires on the vehicle and you've got windshield wiper fluid, you really don't have much to do on these cars. There's really not that much to do. Obviously, the brake pads are a thing, but being that you have the regen one pedal driving, you really don't need to replace brakes that often. It really is a terrific car in terms of just ease of use, driving around town, making sure that it sucks less of your time, and you can really just use the car for what it's meant for, which is just getting from A to B, which is kind of the point. All right, so to wrap this vehicle up, what do I think of the Tesla Model Y performance to this point? Well, if you can't tell, I think it's a terrific vehicle, and in my opinion, it is the best valued EV on the market. Go ahead and check out my video, best valued EV on the market, and I do think that it is the Model Y performance. In a nutshell, you're getting a car that is faster than most any sports car. It's safer than a Volvo. It's got a lot of utility space. It's got a lot of cabin space. What else could you really ask for? This is a terrific vehicle, and I think whether you get the AMD Ryzen chip or you get the 4680 battery or the 2170, you are not going to be disappointed one way or the other, and they are all fantastic and incredible vehicles. If you like this kind of content, please go ahead and give me a like, give me a sub, and we'll see you in the next one.